Morning glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, day 2 of my vacation. It's a primary day today. Idaho, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Washington. Colonel Kurt Schlichter is kind of Michael Barone with guns, and he can sit down and explain everything to you about each of these states and where the gun owners are. Actually, he just knows everything about everything, and he's funny while he does it. Colonel Kurt, remember, this is an FCC-regulated forum. You can't be as colorful as you are on the internet. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. This is Kurt Schlichter here in the Relief Factor studio in beautiful Southern California. Red alert. There is water falling from the sky. I don't know what the heck is going on, but there is water falling from clouds here in Southern California. It is freaking me out. Hey, there's a lot of news. Let's get the rundown. The first big news, Dow futures up 1,015 as we speak. Yesterday, they dipped about 2,000 points. Did people freak out? Well, some people freaked out. Some people wanted to freak out. Some people want to see the collapse of the Trump economy. Oh, wait a minute. I thought it was the Obama economy. I thought all this success, all this prosperity, all this opportunity was the Barack Obama economy that Donald Trump just jumped on like a parasite. No, folks. Last Friday when the Dow dipped, and yesterday, especially when the Dow dipped, no, now it's the Trump economy. I assume when the stock market opens and people look at this as what it is, a buying opportunity. I know Salem host Seb Gorka, Dr. Seb Gorka, he bought too. I know it's going to be the Obama economy again. So we had a small interregnum of the Trump economy. But don't worry, it's going to be the Barack Obama economy again. Good news out of China. The number of new cases are down. Good news out of South Korea. The number of new cases are down. Looks like cases are still going up in Italy, still going up here in the United States. But we've got to remember something, people. We've got to remember a simple fact. Epidemics work on a bell curve. And sometimes eventually you get to the east side of the bell curve. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. And so is our president. Cut number 1, please.
We just attended a very important task force meeting on the virus that everybody is talking about all over the world, no matter where you go. That's what's on people's minds. And we are going to take care of and have been taking care of the American public and the American economy. We are going to be asking tomorrow, we're seeing the Senate. We're going to be meeting with House Republicans, Mitch McConnell, everybody, and discussing a possible payroll tax cut or relief, substantial relief, very substantial relief. That's a big number. We're also going to be talking about hourly wage earners getting help so that they can be in a position where they're not going to ever miss a paycheck. We're going to be working with companies and small companies, large companies, a lot of companies, so that they don't get penalized for something that's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not our country's fault. This was something that we were thrown into, and we're going to handle it, and we have been handling it very well. The big decision was early when we shut down our borders. We're the first ones ever to do that. We've never done that in our country before. We would have a situation that would be a lot more dire. Also, we're going to be seeing Small Business Administration and creating loans for small businesses. We're also working with the industries, including the airline industry, the cruise ship industry, which obviously will be hit. We're working with them very, very strongly. We want them to travel. We want people to travel to certain locations and not to other locations at this moment. And hopefully that will straighten out sooner rather than later. But we're working with the industries, and in particular those two industries. We're also talking to the hotel industry. In some places actually will do well, and some places probably won't do well at all. But we're working also with the hotel industry. But the main thing is that we're taking care of the American public, and we will be taking care of the American public. And I really appreciate the professionals behind me and the professionals actually behind them in a different room. We have a tremendous team.
You know, the unsung hero of this, the unsung hero of the Trump administration, I think, is Mike Pence. Now, Mike Pence is kind of the anti-Kurt Schlichter. You know, when he, you know, I'm a senior columnist for Town Hall. I'm a retired United States Army colonel. I am a trial lawyer. I used to be a stand-up. I used to do all sorts of things. As Hugh said, I can be a little bit edgy sometimes. Mike Pence has been solid, stable, and just flat out competent throughout this whole thing, and especially with the White House Coronavirus Task Force. You know, he's been a great voice for stability, which is exactly what we need right now. Cut number 3, please. Mike Pence.
We also met today in a conference call with 47 of America's governors. We were able to brief them on the latest, the progress that we've made. We were able to confirm with them that testing is now available in all state labs in every state in the country. Over 1 million tests have been distributed before the end of this week. Another 4 million tests will be distributed. But as I said before, with the deployment of the commercial labs, we literally are going to see a dramatic increase in the availability of testing.
How has the White House been responding to coronavirus? What has it been a competent response? Has it been a terrible response? Well, you know, Joe Biden's got some problems with it, but Joe Biden's got a lot of problems. But you know, there's praise. There's praise for the White House, and some of it comes from, and I want you to sit down when I say this and put your coffee down, hold on to the side of your chair. Praise for Donald Trump from California Governor Gavin Newsom. Cut 6, please.
Over the past couple of days, President Trump has said that he would prefer if none of the passengers aboard these cruises landed on U.S. soil. Did he mention any of that to you in your conversation?
Yeah, we had a private conversation, but he said we're going to do the right thing, and you have my support, all of our support, logistically and otherwise. So before he made those statements publicly, I had a private conversation with him around 4:30 West Coast time, and he said everything that I could have hoped for. And we had a very long conversation, and every single thing he said, they followed through on. So I'm just not interested in finding daylight on those statements, because every single thing his administration, and it starts at the top, including the vice president, has been consistent with the expectation that we repatriate these passengers, and we do it in a way that does justice to the spirit that defines the best of our country and the state of California.
This is the kind of mature response that the media never expected. The media and the Democrat establishment and some of our never-Trumper friends were basically salivating at the chance to finally take out Trump. Russia couldn't do it. Emoluments couldn't do it. Ukraine couldn't do it. Maybe this microbe could do it. And it's just not happening. This is a problem. The coronavirus is a problem. But there's a solution. And the solution is calm, measured leadership. And that's what we're getting. Nobody's panicking. Nobody's running around with their head cut off. Nobody in the media or the Twitter blue checks or all the other smart people like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's smart. He does the thing. Can we do the thing? Can we do the Joe Biden thing?
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Oh, we know the thing. But here's the thing I want to know. I want to know, what is the thing that Donald Trump has failed to do that he should have done? What is the thing that Donald Trump did that he should not do? Well, he's confusing people. He's literally killing people. He's killing people. This is all his fault. It is not Donald Trump's fault. Calm down. Donald Trump did not force the people in Wuhan to drink bat soup, or lick a pangolin or whatever else caused that virus to cross over. They have handled this maturely. They have handled this sensibly. The market is reflecting that. When we last checked, Dow futures are up 1,000. I hope you were smart like me and bought. I hope you bought low. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. We'll be right back with lots of great stuff.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
But not serious? Oh, it's serious. I'm Kurt Schlichter. I'm guest hosting for Hugh Hewitt. How do you know? Because my bumper music is incredible. Don't change your dial. We will be experiencing the greatest rock and roll band ever, The Replacements. That's right, Dwayne, The Replacements. This situation, as Adamant says, desperate but not serious. The coronavirus. I think we're coming around. I just saw, the stock market is turning around, like we said. Things are getting better. Things are getting better here, but they're not better all over the world. And it's, we've prospered a lot under the Donald Trump economy. Yeah, the Donald Trump economy, not the Barack Obama economy. And it's incumbent upon us to share what we have with people who have suffered. Starting today, we're focusing 100% on gifts of $320 to provide a family of 4 with food for a year and water for life through Food for the Poor. Here's a serious question. What would you do with $320? If you live in New York City, you might buy 2 tickets to a Broadway show. If you live in Dallas, it might cover a steak dinner for 2 and a nice bottle of wine. Or at Disney World, it gets you a 3-day park pass. But right now, today, you could donate $320 to Food for the Poor and provide an entire family of 4 in Guatemala with food for a year and water for life. These people are living in abject poverty in remote villages, and we have so much, and we've done so well. Just listen to Kevin Anderson, general manager of Salem Music Network in Nashville, who just returned from a Food for the Poor mission to Guatemala.
I can only pray that you feel half of what we felt today, or what I was able to feel when I was in that place today, doing some of the things that we were able to do. I would invite you to get engaged with this and to make the call and to go to this website and to do whatever we're asking you to do today to get engaged, because there are folks living with dirt floors and exposed wiring and all the things that you would never dream could occur and people would actually live in. These folks are living in it, and we can do something about it.
Please, right now, just go to HughHewitt.com or call 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE. $320, just $27 a month, provides a hungry family of 4 in Guatemala with food for a year and water for life. And don't worry if you can't afford $320. Your tax-deductible gift in any amount will combine with donations from others to make it happen for as many people as we can feed together. Thank you very much for helping us feed starving families through our friends at Food for the Poor. And I want to let you know that from the creators of I Can Only Imagine, based on a true story, I Still Believe, the movie starring KJ Apa, Britt Robertson, Shania Twain, and friend of the show, Gary Sinise. It's rated PG, parental guidance suggested. It's in theaters on March 13th. Primary day. It's primary day in 6 states. You got Idaho, you got North Dakota, you got Washington State, the big prize, Michigan. Joe Biden, for reasons that I can't fully comprehend, is apparently, according to a recent poll by the Detroit Free Press that came out yesterday, up 20 points on Bernie Sanders. It seems kind of like the fix is in here. And he's not even sure what's going on himself. Can we play cut number 13? Joe Biden.
And folks, but to unify this nation, we first have to unify our party. And over the past week, we've gone a long way toward doing that. Mayor Pete, Senator Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, Senator Booker, Senator Harris, Mayor Bloomberg, they have done something that I think the press is perplexed with as much as I am, that they've all come out and endorsed at one time.
I know, that's weird how that happens, huh? That's like totally weird that happened.
There's a lot that perplexes Joe.
Everything. Like that dang squirrel that keeps looking at him. Darn squirrel.
If you're a Bernie person and you're going, yeah, right?
Yeah, weird, huh? Weird how it's all coming together to deprive you of your voice. Bernie Sanders bros, you are suckers. But you're not a sucker if you're listening to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Guest host Kurt Schlichter. We'll be right back with a great Liz Sheld.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by I Still Believe, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
That incredible Runaways bumper music can only mean one thing on the Hugh Hewitt Show. It can only mean that senior columnist from townhall.com, retired United States Army Colonel and noted Los Angeles trial lawyer Kurt Schlichter is guest hosting, and that we are joined by senior news editor at Center for American Greatness, Liz Sheld. Liz, how crazy is this week?
It's only Tuesday, and it's already a crazy week.
Did you know that the Dow futures are up over 1,000 points? I buy low, I sell high. That's the way Kurt rolls.
It's a buying opportunity. I mean, you have to know that this is going to bounce back pretty quick. I mean, it's the Democrats don't want it to, and the media doesn't want it to, but if you're a savvy investor or just a smart person, you would know that this is not going a permanent condition.
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm burning a stogie, I got my monocle, I'm lighting it with a $100 bill. Everything's great. Look, I'm optimistic. I think people are optimistic. I think the liberal establishment, I think it wants to not be optimistic. Am I cynical?
No, I think that's a major campaign tactic that they're using right now because they want disaster. They want bodies piling up in the street. They want businesses closed. They want people foraging for food because they think they can seize power in November. That's what they're counting on.
Well, they couldn't get Donald Trump with Russia. They couldn't get him with emoluments. They couldn't get him with Ukraine and impeachment. Maybe a virus.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work either.
I think they may have peaked a little too soon. I think, we had the oil shock yesterday. We had Corona yesterday. It was the kind of perfect storm. The Dow goes down 2,000 points to just 23,000 something. Back when it was the Obama economy, which was, before last Friday, 23,000 points in the Dow would seem pretty darn good.
Yeah, we're lucky that the economy is as strong as it is now for this, for us to have these temporary setbacks because it's not as painful, and it's just going to bounce back. People are just waiting for this to pass, and I think it will pass. So I think this is another head on fire, screaming, hoping for chaos and tragedy and death. That's what I think. They're just really trying to work it, and they love when the economy goes south because that's their one thing that they can't dispute about Trump. They try, but they can't dispute that Trump has really turned the economy around and fast-tracked it. And now they're hoping that this will just last for, 8 months, and then they can just swoop in and take over.
I think they may have peaked too soon, and I think we maybe we're not over the summit of the bell curve, but I think pretty soon we're going to be, heading downward again in the number of coronavirus cases, especially as things start heating up. What do the Democrats and the liberal establishment, which includes some Republicans, what do they have left in their arsenal? What do they have left to throw at Donald Trump?
I don't know. What I hear is a lot of clucking from these people with their press conferences and their thinky pieces and their tweets. But what I don't hear is any, what's their plan? What is their plan that would have been, would have prevented all of this, and then this being what they created with their own hysteria. I don't know what they have left. I don't think this is going to last very long. It's probably like the regular flu, which kills tens of thousands of people a year, and they don't care at all. And we don't shut everything down, and we don't have special theme music and panels of 20 doctors that are liberal and pushing their line. I think it's like that, and I think it's going to start to ebb. And at that point, people are good when they don't continue to see body counts rising, and they're going to say, okay, well, I think that this isn't nearly as bad as we've been led to believe.
Well, today is a 6-state primary. The big states are Washington State and, of course, Michigan. Do you agree with me that Joe Biden's about to, through no fault of his own, win in Michigan. I don't think he's going to take it by 25 like that poll says, but I think he's going to take it. Do you think Joe Biden is going to wrap this all up today?
Well, I think it doesn't matter if he does, because the media is going to pretend he does, right? I mean, they resurrected this guy after they had nobody else left to make that king, right? You had Bloomberg. He flopped in the debate. Everybody was kind of like, uh-oh, because that was their plan B. So then they went back to Joe because they really didn't have anybody else that they could, prop up and be the Trump killer or whatnot. I think, I don't know if Biden it'll be a bloodbath, but the media will pretend it's a bloodbath, and they'll say, oh, Biden, it's brutal, it's over. When is Bernie going to get out? When are we going to come together after, we cheated you or, coalesced against you or plotted against you?
Well, Liz Sheld, as senior news editor for the Center of American Greatness, you have your finger on the pulse of the Beltway. You're living near the Beltway, doing the work that I sure as heck wouldn't do. But you also remain firmly grounded in that weird backwater called America. Do the people in the Beltway understand that we, perceive that Joe Biden is, well, how do I say it nicely, really ragingly senile? I just think they don't care. I mean, they've been so successful. Think of how many people have been brainwashed by the left-wing media, their sympathetic portrayals of the Democrat talking points and the Democrat agenda. I think a lot of people are just misinformed and misled. And I also think they don't care if Joe Biden is like Weekend at Bernie's. They don't care. They just want to grab power. And it doesn't matter who that sort of empty placeholder is to get that power. That's what I think. So, well, on a strategic level, they've got to be looking at it and understanding that normal Americans are going to say, I don't hate Joe Biden. He seems relatively oafish and inoffensive, but he's just not all there. And plus, the economy's doing really well. Why would I vote for a guy who's going to probably spend most of his term in the Rose Garden chasing squirrels?
Butterflies.
Yeah.
Chasing the butterflies.
Butterflies. Where's my net? Where's my net? Kamala, where's my net?
That they are doing is that they've shortened his speeches on the campaign stump so that he has less opportunity to just sort of go travel somewhere else in the middle of his speeches. No, they're shortening them so that, there's less opportunity for something that could be videotaped and put on Twitter of him, talking about Alice in Wonderland or something like that. So I think they are aware. They're just trying to make it, right? They're just trying to make it to November and get him elected. And they keep telling people the same thing. Oh, you didn't get the tax cuts. First it was the economy wasn't good. Then it was Obama's economy.
Right.
They keep...
And then it became Trump's economy as soon as the market went down.
Immediately. It's just 48 hours. We're into 48 hours.
Yeah, it's going back up,
economy.
so it's Obama's again.
Right. It is. But so they have a narrative. The problem is that their narrative is counter to most people's experience who aren't Trump deranged. And make no mistake, there's a large chunk of the population. They just don't like Trump. So they're not capable of admitting any success on his part at all. So people listen to the narratives that they're given from the MSNBC crowd, CNN, these others, or Vox, whatever, Vice, whatever, whoever's pushing out that line, and that's what they think. But I think when push comes to shove, I don't know how Biden's going to get up and do a debate with Trump.
Oh, he won't do one. No, it ain't going to happen.
You think that? I mean, I just don't see how they pull that off. They may be able to put him up for 5 minutes on the stump and then wheel him away and put him back in his box, but they're never going to be able to pull that off when Trump is on the other side of the stage.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a wild ride. It's almost going to be as fun as Hillary, when we all knew that Hillary was kind of not well also. She had that collapse.
Yep.
It's going to be the same thing. People are just going to be watching to see what Joe Biden does. Can he make it? What's he going to say today? It's going to be a similar dynamic. I mean, they're not coming out with any solutions. Or, like I said earlier, what is your plan? If you don't like Trump's plan, what is your solution? And we just get a lot of sing-songy bumper sticker stuff. We just don't get anything substantive.
Their whole plan is, but Orange Man bad.
Right.
That's it. Donald Trump
that's it.
is the Antichrist, and we just have to stop him and get back to normal, which is carefully managed decline.
That's right, exactly. And also, they profit, right? It's not just it's our decline, but their profit and their foundations getting swelled up with tax dollars that are laundered through GAOs and stuff like that.
I don't think that the Hunter Biden scandal, the dope snorting stripperaphilic son of Joe Biden is done. I think that's still going to be a thing. And I really don't understand the tone-deaf way they have dealt with it. I thought they would be more clever and cunning about how they dealt with a guy, getting paid $83,000 a month by a Ukrainian oligarch. I mean, that's prima facie bad. That's just a bad look. And to just try and bluster through it, go, no, it's business as usual. This guy's a huge achiever. He's a huge achiever in the way Tony Montana was.
But the rules are not the same for the left as they are for the right. But it just
looks so bad, Liz Sheld. It looks...
It does to you, but you have your wits about you.
Yeah, but normal people do too. And at some point, don't our vaunted elite have to at least pretend to try and appeal to normal people with a candidate who does not have a manifestly corrupt family and who is not manifestly, I'll say it, senile?
Well, they put up Hillary, and she was very, very corrupt, and her foundation got all sorts of mysterious money from foreign countries, I guess just because they liked her, even though they stopped when she lost the presidency. They put that out there. I think the media is just not going to cover it, so it's not going to exist for a lot of people. We know, allegedly, Lindsey Graham, we'll see, he's allegedly begun his investigation. I think, actually, they're looking into Burisma in the Ukraine now. But it's just not going to be covered. It's like it didn't happen.
Well, luckily, we have Donald Trump, and he goes around the gatekeepers. And we go around the gatekeepers here, too, on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Thank you, Liz Sheld, senior news editor of the Center for American Greatness. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. We're going to be right back with the legendary David Drucker.
Thank you, Kurt. To remind everyone, ReliefFactor.com. If you are in pain and you want out of pain, well, you need to talk to the people that get it done. Pete and Seth Talbot, the father-son owners of ReliefFactor.com. They tell me that sometimes whole families can be helped when one member of the family gets out of pain. That's why Pete and Seth created the 3-week quick start, so you can find out if those people are you. For about $1 a day, you can see if you can get out of pain, and after that, less than the cost of a cup of coffee a week to stay out of pain. The 3-week quick start is like a trial pack, and it can be at your door in about 2 to 3 days. Let's face it, getting older, exercise, even everyday living can create discomfort, pain. You don't order Relief Factor just for yourself. Order it for your wife, your husband, your family, your friends. They miss the old you too. A 3-week quick start at ReliefFactor.com, 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 or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384. And whatever you do, come right back for more of Kurt Schlichter filling in here on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Hughiverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.hughiverse.com.
That music can only mean one thing. It means one of the greatest pleasures I have as guest host on the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Kurt Schlichter, and I'm happy to welcome friend of the show, David Drucker. David, I know that you are the king of the swamp now. You know it, you love it, you live it, but you used to live in the swamp out here in California. David, can I play for you something from Gavin Newsom?
Please.
Cut 6.
Over the past couple of days, President Trump has said that he would prefer if none of the passengers aboard these cruises landed on U.S. soil. Did he mention any of that to you in your conversation?
Yeah, we had a private conversation, but he said we're going to do the right thing, and you have my support, all of our support, logistically and otherwise. So before he made those statements publicly, I had a private conversation with him around 4:30 West Coast time. And he said everything that I could have hoped for. And we had a very long conversation. And every single thing he said, they followed through on. So I'm just not interested in finding daylight on those statements, because every single thing his administration, and it starts at the top, including the vice president, has been consistent with the expectation that we repatriate these passengers, and we do it in a way that does justice to the spirit that defines the best of our country and the state of California.
Washington Examiner senior writer David Drucker, I am gobsmacked. My gob has been thoroughly smacked. Did you see something like that coming from Gavin Newsom?
Well, I would say that in a crisis, we actually often see things like this from political leaders. So it's not entirely surprising. It's also not entirely surprising. I guess it might be surprising to some that Gavin Newsom would say it, but I think people have to remember about Trump. There are two Trumps, that, what I like to call rally Trump and regular Trump, President Trump. Rally Trump says all sorts of things. Some people like him, a lot of people don't. A lot of people like him, a lot of people don't. But regular President Trump in person, he says basically what you would expect presidents to say and acts the way you would expect presidents to act. Most of the time, anyway. So it's not entirely surprising. But in a crisis, we've seen the partisanship in this country wither away. It's usually for a short period of time, and then we go back to fighting. But hey, it's a democracy, and that's our country. So not entirely surprising. I think for the president, it would probably be better for him if whatever he said to Gavin Newsom on that call, he said more of in public, so that voters could get a taste of it. It would probably make them, a lot of them feel better, and allow the work that his administration is doing to actually get noticed. But no, not that surprised.
Well, David Drucker, we have seen many members of the media, many Democrat politicians, critiquing the president's response to the coronavirus crisis, not really explaining what he should or should not be doing, just kind of generically saying, well, it's as bad, he's failing his leadership. How invested is the Democrat Party getting into the coronavirus is Trump's ruination meme, and are they getting a little ahead of their skis?
Well, look, I can't climb inside their head. I mean, look, we're in the middle of an election year. They want him to lose. They already think he's bad at his job. So they're going to view what he does through that lens. I think sometimes the president gives his opponents some rope because of things he says publicly versus things he does privately, or things that his administration is doing that don't get as much fanfare as things that the president is saying. Are they invested in him losing one way or the other? Yes. I don't think we're going to escape that, but I think there's a lot of that going around. I think, there are some supporters of the president that think that the coronavirus concerns are overblown because of who is fanning the concerns. And look, I think there are some Democrats who are sort of implicating or convicting the president before taking a look at how all of this plays out. And, are they going to be unhappy if the coronavirus were to be his undoing because of how people interpreted his response or how it affected the economy? They'll clearly take the win. And maybe that's not nice, but, that's Look, in 2014, when Barack Obama was underestimating ISIS and not acting soon enough and referring to it as a junior varsity terrorist organization, there were Republicans that were upset on policy grounds. They were also rather gleeful as they saw the poll numbers suggest another midterm election rout, and there was one, and that's just the way it goes.
Well, David Drucker of the Washington Examiner, we've only got about 30 seconds, and the big question out there today is whether Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden going to wrap it up today? What do you think?
He might. I always like to see more polling, so I have an average of polling, but he clearly has turned this race around. He's the delegate leader. He's in a position to do well, even if he doesn't sweep like he did last Tuesday. I think if he wins in Michigan, it's very hard for Bernie Sanders to climb back into this thing, but we shall see.
5 seconds. Do the Bernie bros come over to Joe Biden?
Not the hardcore committed, but the rest of them will.
Oh, fall in line, not in love. But I know you're in love with the Hugh Hewitt Show. This is guest host Kurt Schlichter. We'll be right back.
Morning glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, day 2 of my vacation. It's a primary day today. Idaho, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Washington. Colonel Kurt Schlichter is kind of Michael Barone with guns, and he can sit down and explain everything to you about each of these states and where the gun owners are. Actually, he just knows everything about everything, and he's funny while he does it. Colonel Kurt, remember, this is an FCC-regulated forum. You can't be as colorful as you are on the internet. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. My pledge to you is I will do my best to remain FCC compliant, even though I'm a retired United States Army infantry colonel, a Los Angeles trial lawyer of some note, and the senior columnist at Town Hall. You can read me every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday there on that magnificent Salem-affiliated site. Folks, one of the things I love about guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt is I get to finally meet some of the people I've been reading for decades. One of them is Washington Examiner's chief political correspondent, Byron York. Byron, great to meet you.
Good morning, Kurt. Glad to be here.
Well, it's a big day. We've got 6 primaries. We have a number of pretty big states. I think I know how Mississippi's probably going to go, but I'm curious. What do you think's going to happen in the bigger states of Washington and, of course, the big prize, Michigan?
Well, those are 2 big states that Bernie Sanders won in 2016. There's been a lot of noise. We don't have a ton of good polling, but a lot of noise that Joe Biden is going to do much better than people thought in those states. I can't imagine he would win Washington State, but maybe Bernie Sanders won't win by as big a margin as it was previously thought. Here is the big problem right now for Bernie Sanders. It's the good thing for Joe Biden. Joe Biden's delegate lead is about 90 delegates. And, you know, there are 1,991 delegates required to win the nomination, so you think, well, that's not huge. 90 delegates is not huge. But the Democrat system of proportional allocation makes it so hard to make up a lead. For example, when Bernie won Michigan in 2016, he won it by only a single percentage point over Hillary Clinton, but that was a huge upset. He wins Michigan, a huge state, and he gets 67 delegates for doing it. Hillary Clinton gets 63 delegates for coming in second. So Bernie Sanders' net delegate take out of Michigan was 4 delegates. It's really hard to make up ground. This year, when Joe Biden won Texas, he won it by 4 points. He won 111 delegates out of Texas, and Bernie won 102 delegates. So Joe Biden won a net 9 delegates by winning Texas. So you can see how hard it is to make up a 90-delegate lead. That's the problem.
Well, that is a big problem for Bernie Sanders, but I think what's happening to Bernie Sanders may turn around and become a big problem for Joe Biden, who I think we all have to agree is probably going to be the nominee. But Bernie Sanders is the guy that the Democrats, or at least a portion of their base, the socialist curious, have fallen in love with. What are these guys going to do when they see, once again, Bernie Sanders has had his nomination, in their view, ripped from his hands by the establishment and deposited with a guy who's, I think, 132 years old and manifestly in decline? What's the reaction going to be?
That's exactly what the problem is going to be. When I was in South Carolina going to Bernie events, there were people there who had never supported a political candidate before Bernie. They had never contributed money to a political candidate before Bernie, and they believed strongly that Bernie had the nomination stolen from him in 2016. Now, they're going to look at what happened after South Carolina, when Biden wins South Carolina big. They're going to look at all of the Democrats just sort of falling in line and saying, this way, Mr. Vice President. Here, can we open the door for you, Mr. Vice President? Pete Buttigieg jumps out of the race kind of suddenly. Amy Klobuchar jumps out of the race. Both of them are endorsing Joe Biden by the night of Super Tuesday. And then afterwards, Michael Bloomberg gets out. He was never going to get out because he had the money to go all the way. And then Elizabeth Warren gets out. So I think they're going to see in all this kind of a fishy set of circumstances that other Democrats don't see as fishy at all. But they're going to see it that way. And I don't think they're going to be happy going into the Democratic convention.
I saw a poll a couple weeks ago that surprised me because I kind of expected the hatred of the bad orange man to overwhelm the sense of outrage at the perceived theft of the election or nomination. And what the statistic I saw was only 53% of Democrat voters for Bernie would fall in line behind another nominee. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that is a correct poll, but if that's even remotely true, don't the Democrats have a nearly insurmountable problem combined with Donald Trump's aggressive and it looks like somewhat successful outreach to the Hispanic and Black communities, which are Democrat stalwarts?
Yeah, if that number is even half or a quarter of what the real, if it's exaggerated by a factor of 2 or even 4, that's still a problem for Democrats because the entire reason that Democrats have moved to Joe Biden is electability, right? I mean, basically the voters in New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina had rejected him. In Nevada had rejected him. And then there's this wild weekend, and they wake up and they have married him. And the reason they married him is because they think he can beat Trump. And that's the only reason. All of the reasons that they were worried about Joe Biden, that he was too old and they lost a step, or that he was really not very progressive and was just kind of pretending to be so in 2016 because he had hung out in the past with the likes of, Richard Russell and Jesse Helms and Ernest Hollings and all of those people. The reason they got past all of those objections to him was they think he can beat Trump. And it's the only reason. So if it ever appears to them that can't beat Trump, that's going to be an enormous problem.
Well, you look at Joe Biden, Byron York of the Washington Examiner, you look at Joe Biden, and, if you're not really within the establishment, if you're not kind of within the beltway, he looks like an old man who's completely losing it. I'm trying to be objective. I'm a military guy. I don't want to underestimate my opponent. I don't want to play to my own confirmation bias, but the guy is just old and he's losing it. And doesn't the Democrat establishment see that and understand that we see that?
Well, the race had come down to 3 old men. You have to remember, Biden will be 78 years old on Inauguration Day 2021. Bernie Sanders will be 79 years old on Inauguration Day 2021. And Michael Bloomberg was in between them. He would also be 79 years old. So that's what the race had come down to. And here's another thing, which I just wrote in a column that's just out. Joe Biden spent 36 years in the Senate. And what does having spent 36 years in the Senate say to voters? It says, I'm a senator. I'm not a president. I mean, we've never elected, voters have never elected a person who spent 36 years in the Senate. They've never elected a person who spent 30 years or 25 or 20 or 15. You look at the longtime senators who ran in, past decades. John McCain ran for the Senate ran for president after 21 years in the Senate. John Kerry ran after 19 years in the Senate. Bob Dole ran after 27 years in the Senate. And in each case, when they got the nomination, the voters said, no, thank you. And with Joe Biden, 36 years in the Senate. And then Democrats would say, okay, he did serve a long time in the Senate, but he was the vice president. Now, that must make him electable. Well, only one time in our history has a vice president served a term in office, entered public life, and then come back to run for president and win. That was Richard Nixon.
And that was Richard Nixon.
Forever.
Thank you, Byron York of the Washington Examiner. This is guest host Kurt Schlichter here holding it down at the Hugh Hewitt Show. Stick around. We've got a lot more to come.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program with some 80s bumper music. Chosen by me. Your guest host, Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Town Hall, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, retired United States Army colonel.
This is Thompson Twins. This is good stuff.
It's, it
serviceable.
It evokes a vibe. It's not the Replacements. We will be playing the Replacements.
This is not the Replacements, no.
The Replacements, the greatest rock and roll band of all time. This is known. It is written. It is beyond dispute. But you know what's not beyond dispute? And I want to get serious for a second, and I want to ask you to do something that I've done myself. I give money to Food for the Poor. I got introduced by Hugh Hewitt. I'm a regular listener. I'm a member of the Huniverse. You should be too, by the way. You can get my Fighting Words podcast on there. But I'm a Hugh Hewitt fan. I actually listen, and I got introduced to Food for the Poor, and I give money myself. I write a check. All right. I'm a Los Angeles trial lawyer. I am of Scotch heritage, and I write a check. If I write, you can write a check. Now, here's a serious question. What would you do with $320? If you live in New York City, you might get 2 tickets to a Broadway show. If you live in Dallas, that might cover a steak dinner for 2, nice bottle of wine. Or at Walt Disney World, you might get a 3-day park ticket, $320. It's not that much money, but it can do so much good. Right now, today, you could donate $320 to Food for the Poor and provide an entire family of 4 in Guatemala with food for a year and water for life. Look, there are folks living in abject poverty in remote villages. Here, we're doing well. In fact, today, the Dow futures are up. We had a little downtrend when it became the Trump economy. Now it's going back up. It's Obama economy again. But the point is, we've prospered. There are people who aren't. I want you to listen to Kevin Anderson. He's general manager of Salem Music Network in Nashville, and he just came back from a Food for the Poor mission in Guatemala.
I can only pray that you feel half of what we felt today, or what I was able to feel when I was in that place today, doing some of the things that we were able to do. I would invite you to get engaged with this and to make the call and to go to this website and to do whatever we're asking you to do today to get engaged, because there are folks living with dirt floors and exposed wiring and all the things that you would never dream could occur and people would actually live in. These folks are living in it, and we can do something about it.
Please, right now, just go to HughHewitt.com or call 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE. $320, that's $27 a month, provides a hungry family of 4 in Guatemala with food for a year and water for life. And don't worry if you can't afford $320. Your tax-deductible gift of any amount will combine with others' donations to make it happen for as many people as we can feed together. Thank you very much for helping us feed starving families through our friends at Food for the Poor. Now, a technical formatting question, producer Dwayne. When the president retweets, does that trigger the tweeting music?
It does not have to necessarily, because...
What do you think?
No.
I want to make sure I've got the formatics down. That's a term of art.
The formatics, no. I would not play that because I'm sick to death of hearing that tweet.
It literally
jingle. Makes
me want to die.
It makes
every time I hear. And now I listen to the Hugh Hewitt podcast every day as I'm going to work at my palatial law offices in Los Angeles. And I listen on twice speed.
Every time that bumper plays, a radio producer somewhere around the world drops dead.
Well, look, I listen to it twice as fast. So it's tweet, 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 tweet,
Yes.
tweet, 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 tweet.
Yes.
And I hear it, and I want to rip my eardrums out. I hate it so much.
So let's not play it.
We're not going to play it. But you must know that President Donald J. Trump has retweeted, get this is great, Dr. Jill Stein. Remember her? The spoiler? The hardcore leftist who stole enough votes to swing the election?
Green Party Jill.
Green Party Jill. Here's what Jill had to say. This is great. Biden's team won't let him do interviews. He made 2 short teleprompter speeches in Missouri this weekend, and both generated massive gaffes that went viral. You can't beat Trump by trying to hide to avoid the issue of hashtag Biden's cognitive decline. How is this not a massive red flag? How is this not a massive red flag? Our genius elite is in the process of nominating somebody who ain't going to make it to November. And I'm loving it because I support Trump. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Guest host Kurt Schlichter. Be right back. That amazing bumper music indicates that guest host Kurt Schlichter is here at the command module of the Relief Factor studio of the Hugh Hewitt radio program, located here in beautiful Southern California, where, for reasons that I don't fully understand, water appears to be falling from the sky. They call it rain. I'm unfamiliar with his meteorological phenomenon. Am I a weather denier? Perhaps. Am I also a virus denier? I was at CPAC this week, or last week, and I interviewed Representative Collins. I interviewed Matt Schlapp. Both of them are now in self-quarantine, exposed to the coronavirus. So I'm like 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon with the coronavirus, but I remain healthy and strong like bull, as does my guest, senior writer at Real Clear Investigations, Mark Hemingway. Mark, I met you at CPAC. How are you faring?
I'm doing fine. I feel great.
You have not infected the invaluable Molly Hemingway, your spouse, much beloved here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
No, I have not, thankfully. But, you know, we were both at CPAC, I think, collectively like 3 hours. So hopefully we minimize any disease vectors we may have encountered.
Well, it is a seething petri dish of viruses. Every time I come out of there, I come out with some sort of cough. I recently infected Derek Hunter and his family with something last time I was at CPAC. In any case, I want to get right down to some of what's going on here. There's you're at Real Clear Investigations. You've got your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the swamp. There are a lot of people out there. They observe the manifest cognitive decline of Joe Biden, and they're thinking, hey, at this convention, we may see Hillary Clinton slip on in as the savior. What have you heard about this? Is this crazy talk?
Well, there was a story in the Washington Post last night, I believe. It was all about how the new tactic at Biden rallies was to make his appearances short. So he goes out there and he makes an appearance, but it's often for as short as 5 or 7 minutes. Which tells you something about what's going on here. I don't want to necessarily speculate about what's going on with Joe Biden, aside from the fact that he is 78 years old and, he was gaffe prone even in his best years. But, clearly they don't have confidence in his ability to speak in public, and that really tells you a lot about where their campaign is at and how they think that they have to handle him to get through this campaign.
Well, look, all of us in our lives have encountered people in our lives that we like and respect, but they get older, and frankly, they get... well, what's the right word? They get a little addled, a bit addled. And normal people look at Joe Biden and think this guy is not ready to be president or no longer capable of it. Why the disconnect between what normal people manifestly observe and what the Democrat Party is trying to shove down our collective throat?
Well, we know the answer, and the answer is that the media wants Trump to lose this election. So, already you're starting to see this narrative congeal. We saw the same thing happen with Hillary Clinton in 2016, where it somehow is the height of unpatriotic activity to somehow question whether or not at his age he is, fit to do this job. Even though, as you point out, it is a perfectly legitimate question that normal people have and that we just, normally accept when you're dealing with someone who's 78 years old. I was just watching a video of Joe Biden from 2016 where sit-down interview, and it seems like there has been some sort of obvious marked decline in the last 4 years. And it's just insane that we can't talk about whether or not a 78-year-old should be president. I think we'd all agree that it's an incredibly stressful job, and it should probably go to people who are in some kind of prime of their life, or at least in some sort of demonstrated health.
Why are the Democrats so intent on trying to nominate one of these curmudgeons? Bloomberg was old. Bernie Sanders, he's super old. Joe Biden's old. Somebody like Pete Buttigieg comes on. And look, I understand that Pete Buttigieg is very, very annoying, especially his Audie Murphy act. spare me. But, he's young and he's fresh and he can speak English, and you don't have to worry that he's going to have an invisible friend who's a carrot that he has conversations with during cabinet meetings.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the answer, honestly, is that's who has influence in the party, and that's just kind of their bench. I think that one of the underappreciated aspects of what happened during the Obama administration was how devastating electorally Obama was for the Democratic Party. Yeah, sure, Obama at the top of the ticket had his own electoral coalition and had lots of support, but 2010 was the worst defeat for a major party in American politics since the end of World War II. I mean, it wasn't just that Republicans took over the House and Senate at the time. I mean, it devastated Democrats on down through state legislatures. They have no more bench left. So that's why you're left with a bunch of very old people who are quote unquote party leaders, and then these complete unknowns like Pete Buttigieg, who are mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Population 180,000. I think 10,000 people voted in his mayoral election. I mean, they just don't have any sort of leading nationally known Democrats for the most part in between the age ranges of 35 and 70, and that's just a really, really precarious place for their party to be.
Well, even Hillary Clinton's demonstrating problems. Hey, I want to play a clip of her on CNN with Fareed Zakaria talking about the SARS epidemic that happened from 2002 to 2003. She was Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. Cut number 14.
The SARS epidemic, which happened in the very beginning of the Obama administration, because I was Secretary of State at the time.
That's not a thing, Hillary. When are the Democrats going to start breeding a farm team to replace these people who are just plain losing it?
Well, that's a really good question. I think part of the problem they have now is that the party itself, especially among younger voters, is trending so far to the left, is the other issue here. So, if you look at who's up and coming and who's, known for being a younger Democrat, you end up with people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And again, the party leaders are terrified of the party heading in that direction because they know it's electoral suicide. I mean, I think that's the reason why the party congealed around opposing Bernie Sanders. It wasn't because they wouldn't back Bernie Sanders if he won. It's just that they knew that he, at a minimum, down ballot would be devastating to their party. And assuming that they weren't already worried about his chances of defeating Trump. So again, it'll be very interesting to see how this shakes out because as you point out, they really seem to be rallying around and taking their cues from a lot of septuagenarians, which is just a terrible place to be if you're a party.
Yeah, I'm not sure a platform of get the hell off my lawn is really, the kind of change that America's looking for. In fact, it seems to me that they've given up the idea of being the change party. Donald Trump is still the unchallenged change guy. Joe Biden is literally, I want to change it back. And do you think the Americans are really eager to change back to the kind of carefully managed decline that the Obama administration embodied?
That's a good point. Joe Biden was senator for 36 years before he became vice president for 8 years. I mean, there are very few people that you could nominate that could allow Trump to still plausibly run as an outsider after 4 years in the White House, and certainly Joe Biden is absolutely one of them. And it'll be very interesting to see throughout this campaign, as you point out, how the Obama administration is sort of handled. It's taken for granted that the Obama administration is popular within certain Democratic voters, such as African Americans. Of course, that makes sense. But on the other hand, I mean, a lot of what went on during the Obama administration was, for all of the talk about the chaos of the Trump administration, it seemed like every time we turned around, there was something going on in the Obama administration, whether they were shipping pallets of cash to Iran or suing nuns over birth control. And despite the fact that the media was with them and trying to paint this narrative that, all is well constantly, I think the average American voter was, by the end of Obama's two terms, was sort of just beyond themselves in terms of, scandal fatigue and some other things like that. So it'll be very interesting to see how much Joe Biden's going to run on his Obama terms and whether or not people react positively to that, because I don't think it's as big an attribute as Joe Biden seems to think it is.
Well, it seems he's trying to occupy the normality and unity space, and that I don't think what he calls normality, which is change back, is really where Americans want to be. And
I think that's absolutely right. And the bond administration was far more radical than anyone wanted to give it credit for, at least in the media.
Well, and where's the unity? I mean, this is a guy who's willing to put hundreds of thousands of energy workers out of a job. Yeah, they can go learn coding as kind of this sacrifice to the Santa Monica, Manhattan, weather cult. He wants to take guns. Put Beto in charge of taking guns. I mean, this seems like crazy talk. Are the Democrats ever going to get in contact with normal Americans again? Because I don't see how they can prosper if they don't. We only have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, that's, again, another really good point. Even for the fact that Joe Biden is supposedly the mainstream representation of the Democratic Party, the party went so far left under Obama on Joe Biden's watch, and it's just gone so far left in general that Joe Biden himself isn't going to be able to run as any sort of mainstream candidate. I think Trump has ceded that ground already.
Everybody, that was Mark Hemingway, senior writer, Real Clear Investigations. Follow him at Twitter at Heminator. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. We will be right back.
Thank you, Kurt. To remind everyone, andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com. They are lenders with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. I don't know if they've done Kurt's house or not, but they should. Kurt, you ought to call up Andrew and Todd at 888-888-1172. No matter where you are, the interest rates have been driven down so low by the coronavirus that you need to check into whether or not you need to refinance. And even if you've done it in the last 6 months or 3 months, you've got to check again. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avaki, and are friends of mine and have been for years. You can trust them. It's the most important portion of any consultation with a mortgage lender. 888-888-1172 or best go online to andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com. Answer a couple of quick questions. I'll be right back to you. Don't forget as well, Honorbound Coffee, honorboundcoffee.com. Colonel Kurt will love this. Honorboundcoffee.com dedicates 100% of their profits to serve the families of the military deployed overseas. 100% of every sip of coffee you take will be profiting those men and women who are protecting this country's freedom, as Colonel Kurt did for 20 plus years. Don't forget to get 2 bags for the price of one as their starting offer. And then, of course, ReliefFactor.com, made by the same people who make Honorbound Coffee, but this one is for profit. This one is for their benefit. But Pete and Seth Talbot have done such a great product that people buy it and buy it and buy it. We're up to tens of thousands of people every morning doing what I do, take it. I'm on vacation. I took it with me. It goes everywhere with me, especially if there's an overhead baggage compartment involved. And I have not regretted one day becoming a ReliefFactor.com user, and I know you're going to join me in saying that is amazing stuff. It's made my life easier. It will make your life easier, which is why tens of thousands of people have joined me in getting the starter pack, $19.95 for a 3-week trial, and then seeing if it works. And it usually does. On bad backs, on bad knees, on bad necks, whatever comes from exercise, aging, or long commutes, Relief Factor is for you. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
Love will never tear us apart here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter. You can tell that I am here in the command module of the Relief Factor studio in beautiful Southern California, where water is falling from the sky for some unknown reason. You can tell it's me because the bumper music is amazing. Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart, one of the 10 greatest rock songs of all time. If you disagree, Dwayne, fight me. Fight me now, here on the radio. Fight me like Don Jr. and Hoover Biden will fight. And we may have Don Jr.
10
tomorrow.
best rock songs?
It's one of the top 10 best rock songs. Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division. Ian Curtis, lead singer. Bernard Sumner, Peter Hook, and Steve, I forget his last name.
It's not even one of the 10 best K-Rock songs of all time.
No. It is. Love Will Tear Us Apart is one of the greatest rock songs of all time. That is simply a fact. Ancient scholars dug up tombs where on the walls the scribes and philosophers had in hieroglyphics written, the great rock songs include Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Have you heard of the Rolling Stones?
The Rolling Stones are just fine. They're a good band.
They're a good
for
band.
who they are.
Okay, but when you're talking 10 best rock
10
songs.
best rock songs, Love Will Tear Us Apart is one of the top
Jimi
10.
Hendrix ever cross your...
Jimi Hendrix is a fine artist, an airborne paratrooper, by the way, like myself. Yes. Of course, I'm a 5 chump. I jumped out of a plane 5 times, got to wear the badge all the rest of my career. I'm not saying that I volunteered for airborne school so I could meet chicks, but I totally did it to meet chicks. I mean, I can't think of any other good reason to jump out of a perfectly good airplane when you're 22 years old except to meet girls. At the time, it seemed like a really good idea. And Jimi Hendrix, 101st Airborne, which was airborne at the time, wasn't air assault yet, which is a different thing. I am not air assault. Or JAG. I want to make that clear. I am not a JAG. I was an infantry officer.
You don't seem to be a fan of JAGs very much.
Look, as a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, I find other lawyers to generally be very, very annoying people. And when you combine lawyers with the Army, they become super annoying. I once published in Infantry Magazine a commander's guide to using your JAGs, where I suggested daily beatings and that they should be confronted with whips and chairs.
Okay.
And that was generally my attitude towards the Judge Advocate Corps, who are an important and necessary component of any military institution. Yeah, that's a thing that occurred. So anyway, Ted Lieu is a JAG. He's also my congressman. Lindsey Graham was a JAG.
Yeah.
I don't think Tom Cotton was a JAG.
No, he was not. He was Ranger.
Well, Ranger's not a branch. Ranger's a qualification.
But he said
he was an infantryman.
He was an infantryman, and he said he's a recovering lawyer anyway. He's not.
He doesn't law, right?
He doesn't like to have to law.
I will leave here and go law all day, and then I will be here tomorrow, where we may have a guest. We may or may not have Don Jr. Perhaps. I'm hoping. Next hour we have Kayleigh McEnany, which is going to, and Michael Oren. So we've got a lot to look forward to here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program with guest host Kurt Schlichter. We had a plan for this segment, and you destroyed it by slandering.
I did, but I can bring it back home with one cut.
Please do.
Cut 16.
This election is a very important election. In my view, civilization as we know it is at stake.
That's all we need right there. Nancy Pelosi, civilization as we know it
is at stake.
Is at stake with this election.
And she says that like it's a bad thing. Why? Here, I got to ask you something. Why have the Democrats voluntarily given up the mantle of the Party of Change? They are manifestly the Party of Change back. I think it's a terrible strategic error.
I think it is too. I mean, look at where even with the stock market down, and the futures look like it's going to go back up again today. But
it's up about 1,000.
Even with the stock market where it was as of yesterday's close, look what the economy was when Barack Obama left.
Oh yeah. First of all, I saw the dip on Friday and yesterday as a buying opportunity, as did Dr. Seb Gorka. We both bought. I'm not going to tell you what I bought, but I bought. And I think the American people are enjoying the first. If you're under 45 years old, this is the first time you've been an adult in a American era of prosperity.
Rock song, Joy Division, rock song.
This is a good song. It's not Joy Division, but it's okay. This is Kurt Schlichter. I'm more than okay. I am in command here at the Hugh Hewitt Radio Show. We will be right back with Kayleigh McEnany at the top of next hour. Do not go anywhere.
Missouri, North Dakota, Washington. Colonel Kurt Schlichter is kind of Michael Barone with guns, and he can sit down and explain everything to you about each of these states and where the gun owners are. Actually, he just knows everything about everything, and he's funny while he does it. Colonel Kurt, remember, this is an FCC-regulated forum. You can't be as colorful as you are on the internet. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. I will endeavor to remain FCC compliant as I assume command in the module here at the Hugh Hewitt Relief Factor Studio in beautiful Southern California, where water is falling from the sky for some reason. I don't really understand it. We don't actually have weather in Southern California. We just kind of have a static form of 72 degrees, but occasionally water falls from the sky. I don't want to be a climate denier, folks, but I can't handle this stuff. I just want the vibe to stay like this, you know. And the vibe's getting a little. It's vibrating a little. My alma mater, one of my alma maters, because I'm also a graduate of the United States Army War College and Loyola Law School, which is one of the top 4 or 5 law schools in Los Angeles. UC San Diego has decided to essentially cancel its last quarter of classes and do them all online because there was one case of coronavirus in San Diego. Now do you understand why I never give my alma mater any money? Now, I'm joined here by Kayleigh McEnany, National Press Secretary, Trump 2020. Kayleigh, you tried to book me on Huckabee years and years ago when you worked at Fox.
Oh, that was ages ago. I literally was just a youngin' right out of college, and that's exactly right. I followed your account way back then.
And then you thought better of it and said, there is no way I'm going to put this guy on with Mike Huckabee. Good choice. That showed the kind of common sense that has led you to this great job as the National Press Secretary for Trump 2020. How did that come about?
Hey, yes, that's pretty funny. But, you know, the governor would have loved you. I'm sure he would have loved your humor. You know, this came about with a lot of hard work. Left, like you, went to law school after my time being a producer at
My
Fox.
condolences.
Yes, that was an interesting endeavor. I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer then after attending. And while I was there, luckily CNN at that time had a tiny bit of common sense in saying, well, at least give one Trump supporter a platform. And they gave me a platform to share the good news of President Trump, and then they thought better of it and went the other way and doubled down on their animosity for the president, and also lost all their ratings in doing so. And so I left, went to work with the RNC, and then now I'm with the Trump campaign.
Wow, and you're traveling all around the country getting the message out. How's that going?
That's exactly right. You know, I've literally, sometimes I forget which state I'm in, like so there, because it's like a different state every single day. But I've been all across the country talking to Trump supporters in the lines in front of these rallies. There's literally thousands that wait outside just watching the president because they can't get in. And it's incredible, the stories you hear, the kind of learning by President Trump with criminal justice reform. I met beneficiary of the First Step Act, all sorts of different people, paychecks going up. I mean, the things you hear are really remarkable.
What's the feeling you're getting from people who may not have been, you know, Trump curious in 2016? Let's face facts. There were a lot of people in the Republican Party. I was one of them initially who said, what the heck is going on here? Who is this Trump guy? He's not, you know, I've never seen him in National Review before. Who is this guy? He won me over by making promises and keeping them. What are you meeting a lot of people like that?
Oh, absolutely. People who have, you know, gave him a chance, some reluctantly because he didn't have a history or a record in governing. But then, you know, they saw the successes of President Trump and said, hey, I'm on board. And now I see so many more people out there with their MAGA and their CAG hats. They have a lot of confidence and boldness. That maybe was there reluctantly in 2016, but is now out in full force. Absolutely. I meet people who've come off the sidelines. In fact, about a quarter of those who register to attend our rallies are Democrats. About 10 to 15% have never voted in an election. So a lot of these are new voters, too, which is really exciting to see.
And I noticed that Donald Trump's doing some that's actually, you know, Republicans always talked a good game about reaching out to the Black and Latino communities. Donald Trump's actually doing it. How's that paying off?
Yeah, it's paying off in a big way. You know, out in Nevada, it struck me that there was a lot of Black and Latino support in the line. And I always see that, but it struck me in a real way because this was a blue state, and I was like, wow, this is really exciting to see. And then our data came back, and we found that 27% of those who had registered were Black or Latino. And it was literally person after person saying, my life's better off. One man said, hey, I'm a beneficiary of an opportunity zone. I literally only have a business and employees because of President Trump and opportunity zones. So it is materializing in the Black and Latino community, too, the Trump movement. And I think Democrats are going to be quite surprised on November 3rd. Wolf Blitzer will once again have a long face on November 3rd, like he and the rest of the CNN crew did on November 8th.
There's nothing more inspirational than going on when you're down and you're sad to go onto YouTube and watch those videos of sobbing Hillary supporters, broken and sobbing, and it's so beautiful and edifying. I love doing that because their pain is my sugar. Now, I'm a military guy, and I always believe in understanding the opposition. I want to read you something that President Trump just retweeted. It's from and get your comment. It's from Dr. Jill Stein. Remember her from the Green Party, and she wrote, "Wow, Fox." Oh, I'm sorry, that's not it. Well, in any case, what Jill Stein said was essentially that Joe Biden is completely out of it. She used the hashtag Biden cognitive decline. And I don't want to be uncharitable, but the guy is just not, firing on 8 cylinders anymore. How is the Trump campaign gonna gingerly handle the fact that this guy seems to be slowing down without coming across as mean, but pointing out what we need to point out, which is to be president, you've got to be as energetic and engaged as Donald Trump is?
Look, I think it's pretty simple. You put Joe out in his own words and let the voters conclude what they'll conclude. I mean, this individual thinks Margaret Thatcher is the Prime Minister of England right now. He literally thinks he brokered a 2016 peace deal, or rather climate deal with a Chinese leader who died in 1997. I mean, every day there's a mistake like this where it just simply doesn't make sense. And I think when you put Joe out in his own words, voters just simply conclude this is not someone who's cut out for the job. We don't know what's going on here, but whatever's going on is not something that can be commander-in-chief, lead the nation, fire on all cylinders, like you said. So Joe, in his own words, does a pretty good job of making that case.
Aren't the Democrats in a really tough position? They've got, the energy in the party, the excitement in the party is a guy who adheres to an ideology that butchered 100 million people, socialism. And to fight that off, because they know that Sanders is Vermontese for Mondale, they've gone all in on Joe Biden, and I think he's probably going to get the nomination. But this guy is such a flawed candidate. Do you see any way out of their conundrum?
No, I don't. He is a flawed candidate. Our communications director basically describes it like this: the race was going so badly that they looked around and, everyone who they had hope in had fallen, like Kamala Harris and, whomever else, Cory Booker, if anyone ever had faith in him. Basically, all the options had gone away. And then they saw Joe Biden, propped up against a wall, not doing too much, and just said, hey, you, and pulled him, shook him, and said, get out there, you have to be our nominee. And my comms director, Tim Murtaugh, says it's like getting married in Las Vegas and waking up the next day and being like, oh, what did I just do? And that definitely is going to be the case with Joe Biden. I mean, this is a flawed candidate. There's a reason, people laughed at the things he said in debate, said there's no way it can be Joe, and then he just emerges as the only alternative to Bernie, but that doesn't make him any better of a candidate. He's as bad today as he was last Monday before he had that Super Tuesday victory.
Well, it seems Joe Biden is pretty much the Chauncey Gardner of the Democrat Party. Do you think, now, what would the reaction of the Trump candidacy be if at the convention there was some sort of miracle, some sort of giant twist, some sort of Hail Mary, or more appropriately, Hail Hillary, if Hillary Clinton came in as the savior? We only have about 30 seconds. How would you guys feel about the chance to take her on again?
Oh, we would delight in that chance. She was one of the worst political candidates in history. She remains that today. And boy, I just heard her name floated as a VP potential. She'd be bad as a VP. She'd be horrible as a presidential candidate yet again.
Oh, it would be glorious. It would be incredible. Kayleigh McEnany, National Press Secretary, Trump 2020. I am Kurt Schlichter. I am guest hosting at the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I want you to stick around for more stuff right here.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by I Still Believe, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program live from the Relief Factor studio in beautiful Southern California. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, cranking the tunes. I've got the most incredible bumper music lineup of all time, and I hope you're enjoying it. But it's time to take a minute to help others because we look, we're doing well. Dow futures are up again, up 841 points as I look at it. We're prospering. We're going to be fine. Not everybody's going to be fine. Here's a serious question. What would you do with $320? If you live in New York City, you might get 2 tickets to a Broadway show. You live in Dallas, that might cover a steak dinner for 2, a nice bottle of wine. Or at Disney World, it'd get you 3 one-day park tickets. But right now, today, you could donate that $320 to Food for the Poor and provide an entire family of 4 in Guatemala with food for a year and water for life. These are folks living in abject poverty in remote villages. Just listen to Kevin Anderson, general manager of the Salem Music Network in Nashville, who just returned from a Food for the Poor mission to Guatemala.
I can only pray that you feel half of what we felt today, or what I was able to feel when I was in that place today, doing some of the things that we were able to do. I would invite you to get engaged with this and to make the call and to go to this website and to do whatever we're asking you to do today to get engaged, because there are folks living with dirt floors and exposed wiring and all the things that you would never dream could occur and people would actually live in. These folks are living in it, and we can do something about it.
Please, right now, just go to HughHewitt.com or call 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE. $320, just $27 a month. Provides a hungry family of 4 in Guatemala with food for a year and water for life. Don't worry if you can't afford $320. Your tax-deductible gift in any amount will combine with other donations to make it happen for as many families as we can feed together. Thank you very much for helping us feed starving families through our friends at Food for the Poor. Let's get the rundown of the news. I mentioned that the Dow futures are up 800-some points after dropping 2,000 points yesterday. Look, I considered it a buying opportunity. I believe that the economy remains strong. I believe people want to get back to work. I believe that the coronavirus is under control, but don't take my word for it. Do not take my word for it. Instead, take the word of my personal political hero, California Governor Gavin Newsom. Cut 6.
Over the past couple of days, President Trump has said that he would prefer if none of the passengers aboard these cruises landed on U.S. soil. Did he mention any of that to you in your conversation?
Yeah, we had a private conversation, but he said we're going to do the right thing, and you have my support, all of our support, logistically and otherwise. So before he made those statements publicly, I had a private conversation with him around 4:30 West Coast time. And he said everything that I could have hoped for. And we had a very long conversation. And every single thing he said, they followed through on. So I'm just not interested in finding daylight on those statements, because every single thing his administration, and it starts at the top, including the vice president, has been consistent with the expectation that we repatriate these passengers, and we do it in a way that does justice to the spirit that defines the best of our country and the state of California.
That was California Governor Gavin Newsom praising Donald Trump. And I see a cat and a dog walking together hand in hand. Down in Hades, they are playing ice hockey. This is pretty amazing. What is Donald Trump doing? Donald Trump is taking an aggressive approach to this. Cut number, well, I'm not going to play another cut because we're going to have a hard out in a minute. But what Donald Trump's doing is looking at a payroll tax. He's getting more test kits out there. He's calming the citizenry. Look, I see a lot of Democrats, and they really hope that this coronavirus is going to be the thing that finally does in Trump. They couldn't do him with Russians. They couldn't do him with emollients. They couldn't do him with Ukraine. Maybe this annoying little virus that you get from slurping bat soup or licking pangolins in Wuhan, maybe that's going to do him in. It ain't going to do him in. It ain't happening. The Democrats are out over their skis again. And by November, this is just going to be a vaguely troubling memory from long ago. I am Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for Hugh Hewitt. Stick around. We've got Michael Oren at the bottom of the hour.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program, and it's my pleasure to have on the show a guy who was a paratrooper himself. I was a paratrooper. I fell out of a plane 5 times, never did it again. Dr. Michael Warren was the real thing. How are you, Michael Warren?
Thing. I never jumped once. I was pushed every time.
Kicking and screaming qualified.
Yeah, I said, please, after you. They said, no, after you. That was it.
What were we thinking?
I don't know.
I know.
You get to walk off an airplane, but now you can't even walk onto an airplane because of the virus.
Well, and I wanted to get to that. I have heard tell that Israel is considering cutting off travel from the United States because of the coronavirus. True or false?
Not true. Certainly not yet. What they have said, what the Prime Minister has said, and the government has decided that anybody coming from overseas anywhere, irrespective, United States, Europe, Far East, has to go into quarantine for 2 weeks.
That's pretty strict, but Israel is uniquely vulnerable, both in its strategic position and the fact that you guys are literally surrounded by enemies with ballistic missiles pointing at you, which makes this a very difficult time for you. I want to talk about, before I get to the Israeli election, which I think if you had like 74 in the last 3 weeks, I'd like to play something from Bernie Sanders, who is one of the 2 major candidates in a major American party, and get your reaction. Cut number 12.
And what I am very concerned about is that over many years, especially under Netanyahu, we have seen a right-wing drift in Israel. I have called Netanyahu a racist. I believe that is true.
Now, I've got to say, that's very disturbing, and frankly, it's a little embarrassing that a major American politician from a major American party would utter that kind of miserable slander. But unfortunately, there is a portion of our electorate that believes that. How worried are the Israelis about America's support for the state of Israel?
I wish they were worried a little more, frankly, because you can't rule out the possibility that Bernie Sanders could win. Just as you couldn't rule out a possibility that Donald Trump could win in 2016. Not many people thought he would. And you can't rule out that possibility. And if he does come back, if he does win, Bernie Sanders, you have to understand what that means for this country. It means not only does the United States rejoin the nuclear agreement with Iran, which poses a strategic and potentially even existential threat to this country, but it means returning the American embassy from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. It means restoring aid to the Palestinians who reject the peace process. It means restoring aid to the Palestinians who use that aid to pay for terrorists in jail and pays them more for every Jew that they kill. I think what that means for this country, it's a tsunami. And that's why, I got to tell you honestly, I'm never into internal American politics. But with Bernie Sanders, I know that I and other Israelis are going to have to make an exception because it's a matter of politics for us. It's a matter of our survival and our children's survival.
Well, I hope you know, on behalf of the majority of the American people, that we are 100% behind the state of Israel, and that we are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. And I'm proud to support a president who finally kept the promise to move the American embassy to Israel's capital. And I and most Americans, I believe, do not want to go backwards. What's the Israeli feeling about working with Joe Biden, who, may or may not represent a more moderate view within the Democratic Party towards the state of Israel?
Well, I worked extensively with Joe Biden. I know him to be a fine, upstanding man, a pro-Israel figure, I have to say. But again, any American leader who's going to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal, we're going to have to speak out about that. And again, we don't want to interfere with internal American politics, but this is a matter, frankly, of life and death for us. And this was a horrendous deal in which the United States and other countries threw Israel and other Middle Eastern allies under the bus, paid off a jihadist terrorist regime to delay part of its nuclear program for a certain amount of time, but in return for money, which the Iranians then used for more terror, more conquest, to kill tens of thousands of people. This is no joke for us. And we're going to have to speak up.
One of the worst strategic decisions in the last 100 years of American foreign policy. I don't think any serious analyst could differ with that. But right now, Right now, the strategic correlation of forces seems to be tipping in Israel's favor with the production growth of oil by the Saudis and the prices falling through the floor, as well as the coronavirus in Iran, plus President Trump's order to kill Soleimani. I think Iran has to be staggering right now. Do you think there's any chance that they decide, hey, we've had enough. Let's get out of this cycle of defeat?
They can't. Iran doesn't make a decision like that because it is what it is. It's a medieval jihadist Islamic extremist regime. And it doesn't have an ideology. It has a theology. And you don't compromise on theology. So Iran is bound to try to conquer the Middle East, try to destroy the state of Israel, try to take over the world. That is what they're about. That's their definition. They cannot change that definition. And the question is, are they going to try to make war with us before they go under? And they can go under from a number of punches that they have received, everything from Soleimani being killed by the United States, a great move, to an oil crisis, to protests in the streets against corruption and mismanagement, and downing of an Ukrainian airliner. On top of all that, I mean, just gross, absolute negligence on the part of this regime. Maybe the Iranian people will rise up. We would not be sad if they did. Maybe the Iranian regime will decide to make war against us to divert attention. If that happens, Israel will defend itself.
Well, we all know how the Persians did against the Spartans. The track record is not one of success for the Iranians. But the Iranian threat is very real. They've filled Lebanon with ballistic missiles. They've implanted them inside civilian areas. Is Israel capable of tactically confronting this threat in Lebanon?
Well, we're Sparta and Athens put together because we're also one of the few countries in the world never to have known a second of non-democratic governance, along with the United States, by the way. So Sparta and Athens together, yes, can defeat Persia. We can defend ourselves. It's going to come at a price. That's always it. It's a price in terms of our soldiers. It's a price in terms of collateral damage and people in the world accusing us of war crimes. And for all of that, we're going to need our ultimate ally, the United States, to resupply us with vital munitions when we need them. And we've often needed them in the past to cast vetoes in the Security Council, to block attempts to boycott us in the International Criminal Courts. All that's coming down the line. And it's another reason why we do appreciate this administration, which is stood foursquare beside us in every international forum, particularly the Security Council.
Well, like in the United States, the state of Israel is somewhat divided politically, internally. You've just had, I don't know, the 45th election in the last month. What's going on there?
Well, we're stuck right now. We're stuck with the inability of the two major parties, Likud and Blue and White, to join together to form a national unity government. It seems that Blue and White, which is a Zionist Jewish party, for the most part, can only form a government with the help of Arab parties who are anti-Zionist and against the legitimacy of the state. Very difficult, and we are right as of this moment deadlocked. Next week, the president Rivlin will be meeting with the heads of the various parties. They will indicate which of the blocs they think is most likely to form a government, and then that party will have 21 days to do so. If it does not do so, another party will have 21 days, and if that fails, after a 14-day reprieve, we go to a fourth round of election.
How are the Israeli people feeling about serial elections? Are they, look, Donald Trump represents a rejection of the establishment of the old way of doing business. Are you seeing something like that in Israel?
No, people are fed up, certainly, and tired. But what's interesting, with every round of elections, we've had a greater participation in the elections. This last round getting close to 70%, which is very high, maybe a world record for democracies. And people very much want to express their opinions at the polling station. The problem is that we are really divided between center-right and center-left, with more extremes at both ends. And even if someone doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu as a candidate or Benny Gantz as a candidate, they're not likely to change their ideological framework. They're not likely to move from block to block. And as I tell Hugh every single week, is that we don't look at which party won. You have to look at the blocs, the coalition of the various right-wing and left-wing parties. And right now the blocs are neck and neck.
Is this kind of disunity making Israel vulnerable to external enemies?
Yes. Yes. And not just external enemies, it's making us vulnerable to internal enemies like the virus, like coronavirus. Our enemies may conclude that if they do attack us, then the government will not have the full legitimacy to make the decisions we need to defend ourselves. For example, if we have to send our army into the 200 villages in South Lebanon, under which there are hidden some 130,000 rockets, that's a very weighty decision. Many hundreds of our soldiers will die. Immediately, Israelis may come out and say, "Who are you in this government to make a decision? You weren't elected."
Is there
I hope our enemies don't understand that sufficiently.
We only have about 20 seconds left. Is there any chance of a national unity government in this time of crisis?
I hope so. Not just because of the virus, but also because of the Trump peace plan, the deal of the century, which I think is an opportunity which we may not see again in our lifetime.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Oren. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. Stick around for our final segment.
Thank you, Kurt. Time to remind people about Sierra Pacific, andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com. Their phone number, no matter where you are in the country, is 888-888-1172. No matter where you are in the country, interest rates remain ridiculously low. No matter where you are in the country, from Hawaii, where I'm vacationing, to Alexandria, Virginia, where all those Seattle people are moving because of Amazon headquarters moving to Alexandria, you need to call andrewandtodd.com at 888-888-1172 and say, I need to buy a house, or I need to refinance a house. And especially if you need to consolidate debt, this is about, 10 percentage points cheaper than a credit card. Are you crazy? You should not have credit card debt or car debt or any kind of debt at all. If you've got a house, you got to refinance at these interest rates. I don't know if they've done Kurt's house or not, but they should. Kurt, you ought to call up Andrew and Todd at 888-888-1172. Give Andrew and Todd a call today, 888-888-1172. Trust them, as I do, as thousands of you have. 888-888-1172. You can trust Relief Factor when it comes to making you feel better every single day. Your back, your neck, whatever bothers you, especially when you're prone in the car. Not prone, I hope you're not prone in the car. Sitting up straight in the car, but wiggling around because your back hurts or your knees hurts or your ankles are barking at you. ReliefFactor.com would have worked overnight to make that easier on you. Icarian Curcumin, Resveratrol, and Omega, 4 natural supplements so carefully orchestrated, so carefully put together to make it just the perfect combination of the natural supplements that make your body breathe a little bit easier, get your health a little bit better, support the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that plague ordinary living. Don't forget your Relief Factor. Turn around, go back in the house and get it. It's worth the 5 minutes to turn the car around, go back, open up the garage door, go inside and get your ReliefFactor.com. It doesn't work if you don't take it, and you can't take it if you don't get the starter pack. $19.95 at ReliefFactor.com. I hope Kurt Schlichter takes it. I hope you take it. And whatever you do, come right back for more of Kurt Schlichter filling in here on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
This portion of the Hugh Hewitt Show has been brought to you by MyPillow. Call 800-951-5493 or go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use a promo code HUGH.
We are back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm substitute host Kurt Schlichter while Hugh Hewitt is in Hawaii. And what you just heard was the theme song to the new movie, I Still Believe. We have Kevin Downs, its producers here. Kevin, I've been looking at the box office projections. I was reliably informed by all the smartest people that a wholesome Christian movie that supports traditional values couldn't be successful, but it looks like you guys are doing really well.
Hey, how are you doing this morning?
I've been awake since 1 a.m. I'm doing great. I'm on coffee cup number 15.
It's amazing. We're really excited about the film. Audiences that have seen it in pre-release screenings are really encouraged by it. It's a change to have those those people that estimate how a film is going to do say it's going to do good. So we're pleased with that.
Well, aren't you really? I expect that part of the reason you're making an expressly Christian film, because this is a film, a true story about a man and a woman and dealing with her passing. And dealing with those complications in Christian context, it's something that Hollywood would not seem to be able to really fathom. Yet there's a huge appetite for it out there.
Yeah, you know what? It's a great point. You would be surprised. Why wouldn't more studios want to make more content like this when you see such a big appetite? I'm not necessarily complaining because it means I get to make more films. So this is the kind of films that I want to make and the Irwin Brothers want to make, and so we're really pleased that the appetite is there. And certainly our last film, I Can Only Imagine, the appetite was enormous. And we saw that, and so we thought this film, this love story about Jeremy Camp and his first wife, was really timely for what's going on in America today, and the film turned out great.
Is there hope to get? I mean, for this kind of Christian film to really break into the mainstream? I know I keep going back to that, but our audience is really interested in how the entertainment industry deals with people like you who come with a distinctly Christian vision that's got to freak out a lot of the folks in Hollywood. Look, I work with people in Hollywood. You are not the target demographic for the people who actually make these make films.
I think I Can Only Imagine freaked a lot of them out. That's what we heard. Like, nobody saw that coming whatsoever. This one's a little bit more on people's radar because it's coming out on over 3,100 screens.
That's a lot of screens. That's a legit wide release.
Yeah, it's a legit release. It's even got IMAX screens, so that certainly got people's attention. There's nothing like secretive about this thing that's coming out this week. There's a big ad buy. The thing seems to be everywhere. Our star is on all the late night shows and the big shows. So there's nothing that's going to be kind of hiding or sneaking up on people as we've done in the past. But that's okay. But what's beautiful is that the appetite is there and that audiences really want this clean and wholesome and this entertainment that really reflects what their values are.
A lot of people, when they hear about Christian movies, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be a sermon. It's going to be sanctimonious. It's going to be boring. It's not going to be funny or entertaining. How do you fight that stereotype?
Well, it's all about the content that you make. Certainly, we're cognizant that what we're making is a movie, which is first and foremost entertainment. People are paying, whatever the ticket price is in their area, to go and be entertained by a film. Secondly, we're going to make a film that really speaks to the type of film that we want to make, and that's reflective in all of our films that we've made in the past, and people have seemed to enjoy them. And so when they know that they see a film coming out from us or the Irwin Brothers, that they can trust that, and they can trust that it's going to reflect their values. It's going to be clean, and they can be excited that they're going to get their money's worth.
And you've got big names. You have a friend of the show, Gary Sinise, who everyone knows, great friend of veterans like myself. Shania Twain. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, do you feel like you're moving into the mainstream?
Well, I think mainstream is, look, I can only imagine when you do $84 million at the box office, I think that's crossed over into the mainstream. That's not necessarily a little niche film.
That's real money.
Yeah, that's significant. And so, when you follow that up with a film that releases on 3,100 theaters and some IMAX theaters and big sound, Dolby 7.1 theaters and stuff like that, then you're competing with everything else that's out there. I mean, look, with IMAX in particular, they sought us out. We didn't seek them out. And there's only one film, new release at a time, that can take those spots, and we're the one they wanted.
Well, congratulations, Kevin Downs, producer of the new film I Still Believe. Go check that out, and check us out tomorrow on the Hugh Hewitt Show, where I continue to guest host. This is Kurt Schlichter signing off. See you tomorrow morning.